All right, and we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, We Love Comics. It is exactly 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 22nd of January, 2018. And I have a couple of topics that I want to go over, which can hopefully help people in the comic book community, especially when they're new. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of an update of the comic that I got from the seller on eBay, because it definitely got a little interesting with this seller. Also helping people to be able to have more confidence in their purchasing, especially on eBay. I'll take some questions, and if anybody has them, and I'll be more than happy to try and answer them. And then I'm going to be talking about something that some people may not know about, and it's going to affect basically any small channel. It's a new YouTube rule that goes into effect that I'm going to be talking about. So whether you watch this live or you watch it days, weeks, or months later, I appreciate each and every one of you, so thank you, and let's get into it. All right, so the first part of this live chat is going to be about the comic book I received in basically 2 videos ago. Now, if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend watching it first. There's a 2-parter to this. The first is actually showing the comic, and then after I took it out and looked at it and saw something interesting written on the back, I found out it wasn't as advertised, and I had to take care of that with eBay. Now, one of the biggest things I want people to realize is I have no problem with purchasing on eBay. And I want to say hi quick to Jess Wislowski, forgive me if I say that wrong, Batcave Comics, and all the other people watching. I don't want people to ever get discouraged on buying on eBay. Now, unfortunately, there are some people out there that either are purposely trying to deceive, and some that just may not know. But the reason that I continue to buy on eBay is they have the eBay protection. Now, that's only going to work if you examine what you buy and know about the product. So one of the biggest things I highly recommend to people, especially if you are new, knowledge is power. The more you learn about something that you're purchasing, the less likely somebody could either take advantage of you, get one over on you, or just make a mistake that you might have missed. So I don't purchase off of Facebook. I don't purchase off of Craigslist. I don't purchase on the YouTube auctions, because, and those are a little bit better, because, I mean, even when I used to do it a couple of, like 2 years ago, I made sure the people that were selling showed their faces, showed the books, and gave all of the descriptions of what was right and wrong with the comic. So if they do that here, that's one of the better ways to do it. But I don't want to discourage anybody from eBay sellers, because the few bad apples don't have to spoil the tree. So with that being said, and I'm getting enough people coming in to watch, and again, I'm going to be doing some questions and answers about this. So if at any point you feel that you need to ask a question about what I'm talking about, please do, because there's going to be a 2-part topic on this live chat. So the comic in question is Fantastic Four issue number 12, which is the first time that the Incredible Hulk meets the Thing and the Fantastic Four, but it's the Thing versus Hulk first real battle. It's an iconic cover. It's a Silver Age issue, one I've loved and is pretty valuable. I mean, a 1.0 goes for over $100. So this is a book that a lot of people desire. So I ended up, because I do a lot of bidding on eBay, and I have videos that teach you how you can win on eBay more often, so hopefully you'll check that out if you haven't seen them. I won it at, I think, approximately like $137.50. Let's just even it out to $138, and that includes the shipping and handling. So I made the video, and as always, I do the unboxing, so you could see it as I unbox it, and everything seemed fine. Well, when I was going, because what I always do is, unless it's a brand new bag and board, and most sellers, unfortunately, never use a brand new bag and board. You can always tell because they're always wrinkly. I always change the bag and board right away. And if it's a valuable comic, I always add extra backing boards. And if you look under my playlist, I have tips on what you can do to protect your comics a little bit better. So when I did that, I noticed some interesting writing on the back. And you can actually see it in the video, where it says that the comic is in poor condition. They paid about $12 for the book. And the biggest thing that I found interesting is it said 4 pages replica. Now, I decide I better check this book out. So when I take it out of the bag and board, I notice that there is a whole panel which has, it's one whole complete page, but there's 4 panels on each page, that the paper felt different. And it, like they said on the back of the backing board, written in plain English to see, the 4 pages were not the original comic, and they were actually prints, computer printouts. A very nice looking printout, but not the original comic, which means the book was not complete. I wish that was it. I also found out that it had no staples in it, and all the pages were detached. Now, this is where I want people to be very careful, because especially when you're purchasing on eBay, you have a lot of rights, but you only can take advantage of the eBay buyer protection program and your rights if you know what you're doing and if you don't assume. Because this seller had a 100% rating and had over 400 different auctions that were rated. So this was not a brand new seller. This was not somebody creating a new profile. So I want people first off to never assume that just because somebody has a 100% rating or has, high numbers of ratings, that they don't mean that they either, 1, make a mistake, or 2, try and deceive you. Because I don't want anybody to assume that everybody's out to get you. Sometimes people make mistakes. There are plenty of people who sell things that they know nothing about, and unfortunately, they don't take the responsibility. So, without checking your items, you're hurting yourself. And Caden says, sorry this happened to you. I appreciate that, but trust me, in the end, I have already gotten my money back. And as a matter of fact, I've probably had, over the years of collecting on eBay, and that's been since around 2014, I've probably had to make about 40 different utilizations of the eBay buyer protection program. Every single one of them, I got my money back. And that includes people who refused to do business again once they got the money, refused to respond to emails, people that said no returns and there's no way I'm taking it back. You have to know about something that's very important. And you don't have to be a lawyer to understand law, just like you don't have to be a chef to understand how to cook. You just have to research it and do it. And one of the things I highly recommend for people to do, and this is going to help you, is you learn about, as much as you can, because it can get complicated, but what's called contract law. Now, I've talked about this before, and it will protect you even when a seller says, as is, even if a seller says no returns, even if the person totally ignores you or gives you an attitude, whether they made an honest mistake or flat out lied, because this person flat out lied. And I don't know if it was a guy or girl, I don't care, and I don't want to assume. But when I messaged the person, I explained to them the situation. And the first thing that they said was, oh, I didn't know. Famous last words from eBay sellers. I'm sure many of you have experienced that before. The, oh, I don't know. Which, in the best case scenario, if it was true, it still doesn't matter, because a seller is responsible to do what's called full disclosure, which means they have to mention any major defects. Now, obviously, they can't mention, hairline little things that they may not know about, or a tiny 1/16 of a millimeter little bend. But I'm talking about the major stuff. Like, for example, no staples. For example, 4 pages were not, part of the comic, and it's not the original pages. Things like that. So, when I contacted this person, this is where it got interesting. Now, this person, like I said, had a 100% rating. Over 400, I think it was like 404 total different ratings. So this first time he messages me, he says, oh, I honestly didn't know. And I don't want to lose my 100% rating. Could you please change it? So at first I was a little, I was polite, but I wasn't exactly thrilled by that I don't know situation. Because as I show, and you could see it in the video, it says written on the back clearly that 4 pages are replicas. In the images, and I show the actual auction in the second video I did, where they took 3 pictures. All of them are out of the bag and board. So he took it out of the bag and board, or she took it out of the bag and board, showed only the front, the back, and the first page. Now, the reason they only showed the first page is, as you could see if you saw the video, there is tape along the spine replacing the staples. So the tape actually connects to the first page. So when you open the first page, it looks connected. But if you went past that first page, all the pages would fall out. So there would have been no way that person would not have known unless they are legally blind. And again, with the 4 pages, I wish I could have shown it. I already sent it back and already got my money back. But the 4 pages that were replicas were completely obvious. They were different color. There was different paper stock. And Super Neil, yes, I'm still here. Can you guys hear me? Hold on a second really quick. Can you guys hear me? Just somebody put in the comments section, because it shows that I'm still going. Well, I'll assume maybe it's just his computer. So I ended up messaging him and saying, listen, there is no way... Okay, thank you for letting me know. Super Neil, it might be your computer, so just refresh. So I messaged him and I said, respectfully, but kind of, offended that they said this. There's no way you didn't know. You took the book out of the bag and board. You took a picture of the inside of the book, but only the front cover. There's writing on the back of the backing board that's clear as day, because to take the book out, you have to turn it to the back, flip up the tape, and that's exactly where the words are. So there's no way this person could have missed it, because they might have missed it when they took it out, but when they put it back in and they had to cover the tape right over those words, I mean, there's no way this person couldn't have known. So this person, unfortunately, was trying to get away with something. Now, when I was talking earlier about full disclosure, if you look at the auction, and I have the video showing the auction, the person said it was in good condition. They did not mention there were no staples. They did not mention the 4 replica pages, and did not mention that basically 98% of the comic was detached. So what would have been, if it was intact the way they presented it to be, in other words, they were being misleading. If it was exactly as it was presented and exactly as they stated, that book would have been about $175 to a $200 book. But due to the fact that it had no staples, it had tape, it had a hole punch, which I knew about, and I knew about the tape, it had 4 replica pages, which means it's incomplete because it affects the story, missing pages, and all the pages were pretty much detached. That book is probably a $12 book at best. So when I messaged the person and said, you have 2 choices. You can either give me about $120 back, which means I would have spent around $18, which would have been over even its value at that point. But I thought it would still be fair, or you can pay for it to have it returned. And then all of a sudden, this person started getting really nasty to me. Like somehow it was my fault what this person did. Now, the biggest thing that most people do on eBay that I notice all the time, they'll post one picture of the front, and sometimes that's it. Some of them, if you're lucky, you'll get the front and back, and again, that's it. Sometimes you may even get 1 page. It is the seller's obligation to fully disclose any major problems of a book. So if a person says, well, I didn't take it out of the bag of board, or said, well, I didn't know, that is not your burden, unless you don't know anything about it. So we went back and forth with a couple of emails, and eventually he got to the point where he started to verbally abuse me and got really nasty and defensive and said, you know what, I'm not giving you your money back. So I didn't get nasty and defensive back. I basically said, okay, I will now deal with customer service on eBay. I've basically had to deal with eBay so many times with some of these sellers, I have them on speed dial. So I explained the situation to them. I showed the emails of how nasty he was getting. And he actually, at one point, offered me a $30 bribe to change the rating to a positive. And I wasn't about to do it after all the nasty things. And he sent me probably, or again she, sent me about 20 emails to the point where it was almost like borderline stalking, like almost begging me, then threatening me that I was ruining his 100% rating. Now, that's not my fault. And I gave this person plenty of opportunity, because there have been times where a person should have gotten a negative rating for sending a dishonest comic. But if somebody honestly and genuinely seemed like they didn't know, and they went out of their way, or somebody said, you know what, I'm sorry for the mistake, here's the refund, and you can keep the book, because I've had that once or twice, I'll change it to a positive rating. Because sometimes people make mistakes, but it's what you do with it. Somebody like this, who was flat out nasty, who was flat out wrong, there was no way that that person was going to get a positive rating. So this person actually tried to bribe me to change the rating, which I was basically insulted and said no. So long story short, the person was saying, you're not getting your money back, I'm not going to refund it. He even stated supposedly the auction says no refunds. That doesn't matter. So I ended up calling eBay customer service, explained the whole situation, told them I've been collecting comics off and on for 30 years. I know a lot about comics. Am I an expert that knows everything? Of course not. And James says, is there a picture? There were 3 pictures. So if you check the other videos that I posted, it shows the actual auction so you can see. And if you see the first video, you could pause it where I show the back of the book. You can see in writing where it says 4-page replica. So it ended up that this person, YouTube right away, said send it back and we will give you your money back. So they have their, piece of garbage book back. I got my money back. And this person ended up taking down all of his auctions, closed the account, and has probably reopened another account and started over again. But at the very least, I have stopped that particular channel with all of those, 404 plus or 400 plus positive ratings from other people being taken advantage of. Now, this is why I say don't ever be discouraged by eBay, because a couple of my subscribers said, that's why I don't buy from eBay. I don't trust them because there are dishonest people. There can be dishonest people. Some people may just not know. Some of them just don't want to put in the effort. But here's the thing. If you check your books and you know what to look for, you will diminish the amount of times that somebody will take advantage of you. Because the eBay buyer protection program only works if you know what you're doing. If you actually check your books. Because if I never checked that book, and I took it, did the unboxing video, and then put it right into a bag and board. Not even a bag and board, just took the original bag and board, and I ended up just putting it in my comic box. And then let's say a year later, I decide, I'm going to look at some of my books or change the bag and board. Then lo and behold, all of a sudden I saw that. Well, it's too late for me at that point. But see, that's why I won't buy off Craigslist. I won't buy off of Facebook or any other place that I'm not sure about, because they don't have those guarantees. And you have to rely on trusting the individual or individuals, because you will not get your money back with some of these people. So you also have to know what you're doing. So I cannot stress enough, especially if you have certain books that you're looking for. Me, I don't specifically look for books. I always go to auctions. I look at the comics that are ending. If I see something that I would be interested in, because I primarily buy key issues, I wait until there's about a minute left in the auction, do what's called a snipe bid, win 90% of the time, and if I don't win, it's because I wasn't willing to pay the higher price that it was going for. I always say one of 2 things will happen. Either I'll get a great deal on a comic that is exactly as the person mentioned, even if they forgot to mention, because I'll always verify, or the person could make a mistake or flat out lie. I'll get my money back regardless of what they say. And unfortunately, some eBay sellers use a lot of scare tactics. Like, they'll get very defensive and very nasty and say, I didn't know about it, there's nothing I can do. Or they'll say, no refunds, or they'll just flat out ignore you. Don't allow that to be the end game. That is what the eBay protection is for. But the less you know about comics, especially the ones that you're interested in purchasing, the more likely you are to overpay, the more likely you will be taken advantage of, and the more likely you will be very discouraged and unhappy. So, like I said, there's been maybe 40, 50, 60 times where I've had to report sellers on eBay, and I've gotten my money back every time. So it pays to take a chance, but you have to research. So before I get to the next part, if anybody has any questions regarding eBay selling or anything or any advice, let me know. So let me just scroll down the comments really quick. I just want to say hey to everybody that's here. I already said hey to Jess and Bad Cave. Comic Sniper, hey. JR. Pope Grimy, love that name. Comic Lover Omega, greetings. Never Stop Collecting, love that one. Christian Tzakanow, I'm sure I screwed that up. Super Neil, good to see you. Alexis, an assassin of the League. Thantos, some original names. Mr. Angel Vargas. And let me just see if anybody's asking any questions. A lot of people saying hello. Interesting topic. Let's see. I always check as well the prices we pay for these books. It's a must. Absolutely. Never assume. Caden Wow says, hey, Chris, sorry this happened to you. Again, I'm not sorry because I always take the chance. All right, let's see. See if there's any questions. Comic Sniper says, if they ignore you, it works to your favor with eBay. Absolutely. And most of them will shoot themselves in the foot anyway because they really, they probably get a lot of people that either never complain or get very easily intimidated. Because unfortunately, a lot of people in the comic book community, unless you are really one of those people that knows a lot, are very intimidated and often very non-combative and will stay silent and let people walk all over them. Never let them do that. All right, let's see. So let's see. Lucky Straight. Oh, and thank you for everybody letting me know they can hear me. Caleb Leland, always good to hear from you. Always see your comments. Tim Sinkovitz, tons of buffering. Yeah, YouTube loves to do that. Let's see. Bad Cave says, I've dealt on eBay for about 17 years. There's a lot of great sellers, but there's also a lot of scammers. It's relatively safe. You can always get your money back. It's a pain and it's disappointing. It absolutely is disappointing. There's times where I got super deals on incredible books, and sometimes it is too good to be true. But you know what? Better to end up being, getting your money back than to be disappointed having a book that you didn't get, what you didn't purchase, and not getting your money back. So, sometimes you just gotta kind of cut your losses. Let's see. Make sure. See, imagine how many times, Alexis says, imagine how many times he got away or she got away with other buyers. That does not shock me, and that is a possibility. Of course, I'll never know because the person did have a 100% rating, but if he did it to me or she did it to me, they could have done it again. Who knows? Let's see. All right, so no questions. That's a good thing. Okay. Alexis writes, are replica pages common? I've never come across that. Unless it's like, for example, I have some books where there's replica covers. I have 3 books where there's replica covers, but I knew about it because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to afford them. I have Superman #2, the original Superman #2 from 1939, Fantastic Four issue #1, and Amazing Spider-Man issue #1. Those are all replica covers. But again, I knew about that and the people did mention it. As far as replica pages, I've been collecting comics for over 30 years. I literally have probably 50 long boxes worth of thousands of comics. I've never experienced that in my lifetime. So if anybody else has, please post that. But you know what? That is a completely rare thing. But the fact that it was actually mentioned on the backing board and the person claims they didn't know is just very silly. So let's see. Let's scroll down. A lot of people commenting tonight. This is great to see. I haven't done a live show in a while. People sharing their experiences. Let's see. Comic Sniper says, I got bitten once. The last page missing. Didn't catch it until I read the book months after I bought it. And that's what I'm talking about. As soon as you get a book, open it up and check, especially if you spent a lot of money on it. I mean, if it's a $2 book and you just bought it because you wanted to read it, that doesn't matter. But if it's something where you're spending a lot of money, or it's something you hold in high esteem or potentially could be very valuable, you want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. Because nobody buys a car and then lets it sit in the driveway for a year. You want to drive it to make sure it is exactly what you purchased. And there are laws that will protect you, but those laws only come into effect if you do something about it. Like, for example, if somebody robs your house and you see the person running out and you can identify who it is, if you decide, well, that's a friend of mine, I'll let it go, well, as bad as the crime was, the person gets away with it because you didn't do anything. So, again, like this person said, don't wait months. As soon as you buy it, double check it. Because the only person that gets hurt in the long run in that way is yourself. Because at that point, not only is the eBay buyer's protection gone, but the PayPal. Now, people may not know this. The eBay buyer protection is approximately 30 days. PayPal has a 6-month protection. So that gives you extra time. Many people may not be aware of that. So check with PayPal, especially if you are, I don't know if it's registered or verified. Verified. They will give you up to 6 months. So you have plenty of time to check, but don't wait that long, because the longer you wait, the more that somebody could say, well, maybe you did it. So be very careful about that. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions, because when a seller only shows the front of the book, there's usually a reason for that. So ask for extra pictures. Ask questions. Never assume. Lucky Straight says, I want to snipe an Aquaman #1. Any tips? I'm going to give some tips for any purchase on there, especially for comics and what I do. The first thing you want to do, because he asked about a specific book, Aquaman #1. The first thing you want to do is find out what is the approximate going rate for that comic book. Now, comic book price guides that you get in comic book stores, they're basically useless at this point, because by the time those are published, the prices can go up and down. So you really don't want to go with those. There's a lot of different sites, and there's different ones. I'm not going to recommend any one, but if somebody wants to do it here, they can. That will basically give you as close to an up-to-date current value of that book at specific grades. So the first thing you want to do is say, okay, let's see what the prices are for these specific grades. What price range can I afford? And then what you do is you go on eBay and you type in, for your example, Aquaman #1 or whatever anybody else is looking for, and then you go highest price, which is what you're willing to spend, and then scroll down on the left side, you will see sold auctions. In other words, not what people are selling it for currently, but what people have purchased it for. And then scroll down and verify all the prices that people are willing to pay. Because the worst thing, and I see this all the time from eBay sellers, or eBay buyers, is a lot of comics and a lot of collectibles are based on emotion. I have, in my old channel, my original channel, I used to tell people all the time certain books to buy. And I said, get them before they become hot. There are many books that years ago I told people to buy that I bought it at $10 a book that are now close to the $50 to $100 range. It doesn't always work, but you want to get them ahead of time. So a lot of people base things on emotion. They'll look up a specific book that is that hot topic trending book and overpay for the price because they didn't take the time to see what the average person is paying. So you can actually look up the price on some website and it says, let's say Aquaman #1 at a 5.0. Let's just say, argument's sake, it's about a $300 book. But then you go on eBay and you go to the sold listings and you see that 5.0 is selling for $400. Well, to me, that if you see lots of auctions in that price range, you now know at this point where the price is heading. So you can wait for books, because I tell people this all the time. If you have a book that you want, if you see an auction with that book that you want, say to yourself, this is the amount that I am willing to spend. The problem is most people want something right away, so they're willing to overpay just to get it. And my best advice is, and I've done this so many times where it's taken me months and sometimes years, because I had some of my 2015 wish list comics that I just got in 2017. And I passed up many opportunity, because I promise you that for every comic that you miss, there will be 20 more just around the corner. So if you see a book that is in less condition than you would want, or higher than you really want to spend, pass it by and wait for the next time around. And then you will not overpay for books like so many people do. You will get them before everybody wants them, and you will save a lot of money, which means you can buy more books, or pay bills, or take your girl or guy out to a movie or something. So my advice is always know what you're bidding, check what prices are going on, pass up on bids and auctions if it doesn't meet your expectations, and be very patient. This is a waiting game, and if people cannot wait, you're going to overspend every time, and you're ultimately not going to be happy. So let's just see if there's any more questions. Jess Wislowski said, have you thought about getting Machine Man and 3D Man? Quick answer is no. I mean, I don't see them. Even if either one of them got a movie, it's a one and done, and I don't see that getting anywhere. But obviously, if you buy books because you want to read them, then, I mean, don't let anybody ever distract you or discourage you from getting something because it may not be mainstream or everybody might not like it. Do what you want. So me personally, I wouldn't get Machine Man or 3D Man because I basically, at this point, I'm interested in Bronze Age, Silver Age, and Gold Age key issues. So, like, Machine Man is more of a Copper Age, and unless it's something like, you know, Amazing Spider-Man 300 or New Mutants 98, I really don't touch modern books or even, you know, Copper Age that often. But if you like it, by all means, take the chance on it, especially if you buy it or see it in a dollar rack. I mean, how do you go wrong? Let's see. Let's make sure some other things. Christian Tzaka now says, always pay extra for priority. Can't stand sellers who ship books media mail. All right, here's some advice, and that's good that you brought up that topic. Here's some advice I give for, again, comic book buyers. Again, do not assume that the seller either knows what they're doing as far as shipping books out, or even cares, because I have had books that I've bought that arrived without a bag and board, just thrown in a box. There will be people who just don't know or don't care. So this is what I do after every purchase. I send them a message, and I say, hi, I am the winner of this comic or comics. Can you please place several, and I put in capital letters, very thick pieces of cardboard on either side of the comic so it prevents it from being damaged. And then I go on to say, I've had experiences in the past where minimal protection ended up damaging the comics because of our local post office. And if the comic arrives damaged, then you have to get a damaged comic back and give the money back, and I'm sure neither one of us want that. And I've had some people just totally ignore it and did whatever they wanted. And sometimes, because they play the game of Russian roulette. I'm sure many of you have experienced the times where they'll say, well, I do this all the time. Well, you know, that's like saying I go up to a bear that's hibernating and I pull on its tail all the time and nothing happens. Well, if one time that bear wakes up and mauls the living crap out of you, it doesn't matter if you did it 50,000 other times and it didn't do anything to be, you know, with consequences. So sometimes their mindset is totally off and illogical. So I always assume that they don't know. So I educate them with it. And I've had people actually thank me. So even when I've had videos where you see the box is crushed or the edges of the package are bent in, the comic itself was protected because they listened to what I said. And if they don't listen, you have another tool when you have to, if you have to report somebody to eBay, saying, look, I even explained to this person in advance how to send the book. They chose not to do it. So, you know, don't let them overpower you and don't make assumptions. So let's see. We have Leonard Adams say, "G'day, mate." So I'll say it. "G'day, mate. Nice to see you. Glad you're arriving." I don't know how good or bad that was, but, you know, that's my attempt. James Werner, "Have you ever received a collection that looked good but smelled of smoke or moldy?" That has happened. I don't understand it, but I've seen so many comic book collectors that they live in basements. They have lots of dogs, because that's another one. The smell of dog. When you open a box, you know immediately if somebody has probably several dogs. Moldy is this, and this is another bit of advice I could give people that will help you. There are so many people, and I agree to a certain extent, that, you know, you want the best bag and boards for your comics. Now, there's different types. Some are very expensive, some are the minimal. It does not matter what bag and board you put your comics in if you don't stack them correctly, and if you do not put them in places where there isn't extreme differences in temperature. I've seen people that stack their comics above or in front of radiators. I've seen people put their comics, and I'm talking very expensive comics. I've seen comic book shops do this. They put them on the walls, and the sunlight is exposing the lights onto the comics, which will eventually fade the comic. So if you had a 9.8 comic already graded and you put it up on the wall and you let the sun shine its rays on it, in about 2 years, that cover will be halfway completely faded and it will no longer be a 9.8. So how you store your comics, and I have several videos on my channel explaining different ways that you could do it to the best of your ability and also what not to do, is just as important as the bag and board that you put it in. So when it comes to the smell of some comics, hopefully, most of the time, the odor is only on the bag and board. Because you could usually tell, because those people tend to have bag and boards that look like they were originally put in their basement in the year 1965. And if they have a lot of smoke and things, hope and pray it doesn't penetrate. But as far as I know, you can get your comics pressed and dry cleaned, and if it's a mild smell, you might be able to fix it. Now, mold you have to be very careful about, especially black mold, because first of all, many people may not be aware of this, but black mold is deadly. It could shoot out spores that can affect people with breathing problems and can literally kill you. So if you have smoke on your comic, you know, that's one thing. But if you see mold on a comic, I would immediately get my refund. Or if it's a book that you have that has mold on it, separate it from your other books. Because if you've ever seen some food in your refrigerator that started getting moldy, if you leave it in there, mold spreads. So mold will definitely destroy not only that comic, but potentially every comic in the area that you store it. So storing things are very, you know, you don't want to put them in an unfinished basement. You don't want to put them in an attic. You don't want to put them next to a window, because when you have extreme temperature variations, you create moisture. And moisture, water and paper do not mix well. And that is one of the reasons why people have moldy comics, is because they may have had them in the best, most expensive bag and boards, but put them in a dark corner in the basement where it freezes in the wintertime and it's boiling hot in the summertime. It created moisture, which mold feeds off of. So be very careful with how you store your books. So, you know, smoke is one thing. The dog smell, to me, that's just, I hate it. But mold, get rid of those books. You know, sometimes you might just have to take a loss. Let's see. Let's see if there's any other questions. All right, so no. So I pretty much said hello to everybody. If there's somebody I missed and you want to shout out, let me know. I don't want to miss anybody. So I want to get into the next part, which is very important. But the first thing I want to do is give a quick shout out to somebody who's not here right now. And that is Undisputed Frost. I wanted to give a quick, thumbs up shout out to him. Those of you who may or may not know, when I first came back again back in the beginning of 2017, I went back to not doing my own live shows because I wasn't going to do them anymore. But I went on another channel's YouTube channel and did some live shows in the beginning. And Undisputed Frost and I don't know how it really started because basically the host of the comic book channel had to go upstairs for whatever reason, asked me to take over. So I was taking over his channel and I started talking about stuff. And he, at the time, didn't like what I was saying, and we got into an argument, and it got a little heated. Both ends. I take responsibility for what I said, too. I wasn't exactly, in response, nice. Long story short, on my other channel, about 3 or 4 days ago, he actually came onto the channel and apologized for his situation, said he hoped that, we can, overcome what we did, and everything is cool now. So I just wanted to say, and yeah, Splash Page, I could see you. Splash Page, really quick. I checked on both my channels. You were never blocked. So sometimes what can happen is, especially on my other channel, because, it's been there for a while, YouTube loves putting comments in the spam section. And when it's live, sometimes if I don't see it, I don't even know it ever happened. So with regular comics, you'll see a section where there is spam comments. And there are some where somebody says, "Hey, Chris, how are you?" And YouTube somehow figures that's a spam comment. But when it's live, if YouTube views it as spam, I never know it's there. So I just wanted to let you know, and I'm glad you're here, so thank you for that, because I don't know if you got my message because you didn't get a response. But like I was saying with Undisputed Frost, he and I worked things out. He sent me a couple of messages. We've been talking back and forth. He was really cool about it. It was a pleasant surprise, and I really hope more of the comic book community decides to get along and work together. Now, that doesn't mean we all have to be best friends, hugging each other, singing Kumbaya by the campfire. But if you think about, especially the topic I'm about to get into, this is a time more than ever where this community needs to work together. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to, watch everybody's channels, because everybody's going to have their own tastes. But what I'm saying is the whole bullying tactics and people that stalk channels to thumb them down and things like that, the people that badmouth other people all the time, we have to put it to an end, and I'm going to explain why now, because this is very important. How many of you, and just put the number 1 in the comment section if you know this, how many people know about the new YouTube policy that starts effective February 20th of this year? If you know what I'm talking about, put a number 1 in the comment section, because I have a feeling many people may not know. So I'll give it a second or two, and I have a feeling it's not going to be a lot. There's a major YouTube rule that is going to take effect this February on February 20th. So far, 2 people. Splash Page knows about it, and Caden knows about it. Anybody else? I kind of had that feeling. All right, so let's go over this. All right, James Wiener knows. Or Werner, forgive me if I say it wrong. All right, so this is the YouTube policy, and I think this is so hypocritical of them. They are overdoing it, and the small channels are going to really suffer for this. Now, it's not going to affect either one of my channels, so I'm not upset about this for the fact that it's going to affect me because I already qualify, but the newer channels are going to suffer. So this is the policy that's going to be in effect February 20th. So they basically only gave us all about 30 to 45 days, maybe 2 months in advance notice. Not enough time to fix this if you're a small channel. So here we go. Here is the YouTube policy. As of now, if you want to make ad revenue, and even if you are already partnered with a partnership, you have to have now in a 12-month period, 4,000 hours of viewing time from people, you have to have a minimum of 1,000 subscribers and a minimum of 10,000 lifetime views. And if you do not meet those requirements, you are no longer available to get any ad revenue. And if you are even under a program where you have a partnership, you will be disconnected from that partnership no matter what partner it is. Now, again, I meet these criterias. So there's a way to show it, and I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to put the screen up on screen capture so you could see if you are going to qualify. Because obviously, if you have the 1,000 subscribers, that's easy to tell. But how do you know about the minutes? So let's put this on. You should be able to see it momentarily. Now, when you break it down, 4,000 hours breaks down to 240,000 minutes. Okay, so here we are on my screen. So if you look on the left-hand side of your channel, if you make videos, you will see the Creator Studio section where you see the dashboard, video manager, and all that, right? So let's go to here. So right now I'm on my channel because I don't want to do it on the live stream. So you're going to go down, Community, Channel, right here where it says Analytics. So you're going to click on that. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a whole nother bit of subsets. So now you're going to go down to where it says Watch Time, and you're going to click on that. Now, since my channel is only 11 months old, it really doesn't matter this next step. But if your channel is more than a year old, this is what you need to do. You're going to go right over here. See where it says last 28 days. Scroll up a little bit. You're going to click on this. And then you're going to go down to where it says the last 365 days. Because again, it has to be in a 12-month period. And it will load, and you will see right here how much time you have. So as you can see, between January 22nd, 2017 and January 21st, so it doesn't do today's, I have 398,000 watch time minutes. So the qualification is 240,000. Now you'll see a major spike here. That was during my my top 50 comics of 2017. But even with that, that's only 6,700 minutes. So I am way over, and I still have until February 20th. So how do you view the... Here we go. We'll go to the next part. This is how many views, because you need at least 10,000 lifetime views. So right now I have 84,000. Now, as you can see, my ad revenue, now that's the amount that I get paid. That's how much I've earned this month so far before my partnership takes 40% of it. So I'm not making lots of money. So for me, you know, this is not going to make or break the bank. But if anything, even if I got $20, that's $20 that I don't have to pay gas for. But what's going to happen is now, any channel that has less than 1,000 subscribers, who has less than 4,000 hours, and has less than 10,000 lifetime views, will no longer qualify for ad revenue. Now, the reason that they said this, YouTube, is basically saying we're trying to make YouTube a better place. Now, if you know anything about YouTube and have been around as long as I have, because I've been on YouTube basically since 2010. I have another channel that's been around since about 2012, but I originally shut down the original one that was started in 2010. A lot of people that cause problems are the larger channels. Now, they make a lot of money. I mean, PewDiePie makes probably about $100,000 a month. That's how much money this person makes. But the average person could make a very good living making YouTube videos. But they're the ones that cause all the major drama. But because they make money for YouTube, they are not going to be penalized. So they're basically trying to say that if you're a small channel, we have to weed you out. what that's going to do is, and Splash Pages said this, and I agree, he says, I really don't care, I make videos for fun, and never ever really expected to make money. Most people might think that, but there are plenty of people that actually have YouTube as their form of employment. There are people that quit their jobs and do YouTube full time. So, didn't Poorly Pie get dropped? I don't know if he did because I don't follow him, but even if he did, I'm sure somebody would pay him to advertise on his channel. I mean, the guy makes like 3 million views in an hour, more than I'll ever make in this channel on its lifetime. So I don't know if it did, but even if they did, that person's set for life anyway. But they would always have somebody. So there's going to be plenty of people that will do it just for the fun. And obviously, as you could see, I do it for the fun as well. Because if I was going to live on like $14 a month, you know, that would be good if I lived in 1893, but not 2018. But there will be plenty of people. And on my partnership program, they were talking about how people will be disconnected. Now, the problem with that is, not everybody cares about the money. If you have a partnership, you get access to free music that you could put, basically a larger community where they'll help promote your channel. But the biggest one is people say, you know how you watch some people's videos and they have music in the background? Well, a lot of times you have to be a partner to get that music unless it's your own original content. Because you will be... you could have your video reported and withdrawn from YouTube if you use somebody else's content. So people like myself, I never utilize it, but plenty of people on my partnership program, I saw the comments that they want to quit. And that's really going to hurt the comic book community because there will be newer people that will be so frustrated that they don't get those opportunities anymore. Because if you have under those requirements, you are now no longer allowed to have a partnership. And before this program, somebody with 1 subscriber who had 20 views per video could add the partnership music free to help give their channel a better opportunity. So that's now going to be gone. So I would love to know what you guys think about this stuff. So what I was saying before is, as far as this comic book community is concerned, if we want this community to be a real community, it's like anything. You could live next door to a neighbor you don't like, but that doesn't mean you have to throw tomatoes at them every day or do things that hurt people. Because I see there are a few people that for some reason just absolutely hate me. And that's fine. People can have their own opinions. But you know what? I was always brought up saying, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. Not always easy when you're from New York, a Scorpio, and Sicilian Italian. But, you know, I think people should, in this community, help each other, make our channels welcome, because there are plenty of people who are getting into comic collecting thanks to all these movies. And they'll come into this comic book community, and there will be people that they see fighting and attacking one another and insulting one another, and they'll disappear never to want to touch this comic book community again. And if we want to continue doing what we love, as they say, the more the merrier. So that doesn't mean that now all of a sudden everybody has to get along, but they could not fight and not put other channels down. They should, at the very least, say nothing about a channel they may not like. Because here's the biggest thing. As far as when it comes to comic collecting, collect what you love. Don't give a rat's behind what anybody else thinks. Because then they'll influence what you want out of peer pressure. And that's something I've seen in my experience on the comic book community over the years, is there will be groups of people who will feel it's their job to dictate what others do, think, say, and if you have a difference of opinion, that means there's something wrong with you. And that should never be the case. So there are plenty of channels I don't like their content. There are plenty of channels where I just don't like the individual. But I don't talk bad about them. I don't make videos trying to attack them. I definitely don't go to their channels and thumb them down, because to me that's wasted energy. So one of the good things about my channel is, and I eliminated all the live shows where I invited all the guests. Because you notice plenty of people that are new to this channel who didn't experience my original We Love Comics channel say all the times they feel very comfortable here. You notice even in the live chat, there's no fighting. Everybody's talking, communicating, having fun. When I used to do my live shows, I used to do it where I would post the link and anybody can join. And unfortunately, there were some people that tainted it to say the very least. And other people that would spread rumors that because it was repeated regularly meant that it must have been true. That's unfortunate. I didn't react the right way as myself because I felt very defensive. I take responsibility for my part. But I have gotten to the point now when I reopen this channel, I eliminated the live shows where I invite other people. And you notice not once has there been any quote-unquote drama. Because I'm here for the love of comics. I am here for those who love comics. So I don't care if you buy the books because you absolutely love the cover. I don't care if you buy the book because you absolutely love to read them. I don't care if you buy the book and turn it into a paper airplane. Whatever you do, as long as you love what you're doing and you're not hurting others, is the right way to go. And Comic Sniper says it best. If you don't like them, don't watch. And I thoroughly agree. One of the things you'll notice on my channel is every video I have has a minimum of 1 thumbs down, if not more. And there are people, and I know who they are. I'm not going to waste my time saying it, because if that's what they do to be happy, that's fine. But they'll come here just to thumb it down. And they have the right to do it. It's just, to me, very silly. But this is what I want to recommend to people. Promote other people's channels, especially if you think they can provide something to help. Now, I'm not talking about just my channel. There are plenty of channels I love to listen to, and I love their content, and I love the people as human beings. We need to make this community stronger because it will help us all in the long run. And the more people we can get into comic book collecting, the more it keeps the industry alive. Because especially the older people like myself, because I am 47 years old, and I will be 48 at the end of, the beginning of November, but the end of the year. I remember what it was like in the 90s with the comic book crash. And myself and many others after that crash stopped collecting comics for decades. Because between, I would say for me, around 95, 96, from that point on, I did not collect or touch or research or look at another comic until the end of 2014. And yeah, All About Comics is damn you're old. That's all right. My thing is, you're only as old as you act. So I'm still about 15. So some of us older generation know and experienced that comic book crash. And back then, they were printing variants like crazy. They were printing all these fancy covers like crazy. The average book was printed in the millions. Like if you look up something like Spawn #1, or even something like the New X-Men back in the 90s, that was like an 8 million print run. Nowadays, the average print run, you are considered high up there if your print run is over 300,000. So that's how many people disappeared. Now, granted, people were buying back in the 90s 5, 6, up to 20 copies of a book. I've seen it. So that will, stretch it out a little bit. But I'm starting to see the same thing. The thing that's keeping this comic book community alive are the movies. And I always said this, the day that Marvel movies start to stink is the day the comic book world community is going to start to crumble. Because there are many people that are here because of the comic book movies. And that's why it's like me, I'm primarily a Marvel fan, but I don't have a problem with DC. I collect a lot of DC comics. I love Marvel more. I know more about the Marvel heroes and villains than I do in the DC universe. But my thing is, I'm not a hater. Just because I love Marvel doesn't mean I have to hate DC. Or just because if I loved Image doesn't mean I have to hate Marvel. They all interact with each other. So don't ever let anybody influence what you buy out of peer pressure. Don't ever fit into a group that makes you feel like you have to do what they do, you have to think the way they think, and you have to basically have an elitist point of view. Otherwise, you can't fit in. So there are some people in this community I'm very happy that don't like me. I hope that changes, because when we all get along, and by getting along, that can mean just, letting bygones be bygones, everybody ends up benefiting. Because if there's no more fighting, no more people making up rumors, no more people attacking, and it's not just my channel, I know plenty of others that get attacked all the time. I've seen it in the backgrounds. If people stop ganging up on other people or making the newer people feel like they're inferior because they don't know that Amazing Spider-Man number 138 is the second appearance of the Punisher, we will all benefit. We'll all get more views on our channel. We will all see the prices of comic books get maybe potentially higher. It will keep the industry alive. Instead of people, especially, like I said, the newer people, coming into this community, seeing all these battles, seeing all these, not all of these, but like they say, a few bad apples spoil the tree. Some people say a few bad apples spoil the bunch. But they say, I don't want to be a part of this, and they walk away, never to buy another comic or never buy their first comic. How does that benefit us as a community? Now, some people, unfortunately, some people are just stubborn, and they will never change their mindset. And that's a shame. But to people like, for example, Undisputed Frost, where he had this major problem with me, and I reacted in a defensive way, but I said things that I regret and I shouldn't have said. He was kind enough to surprise me by sending nice messages to me and saying, as far as he's concerned, he apologized for his end, he took responsibility, and he said, can we be cool? And I was more than happy to accept that. And if more people did that, we would all benefit as a whole. And like they say, in the bigger scheme of things, united we stand and divided we fall. There's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of jealousy, and there's a lot of division in this comic book quote-unquote community. And if we could let that all go and all be adults and allow people to collect whatever they want, whether it's to read the comic or whether it's to just 100% invest in the comic, there is no wrong way, because whether a person buys a comic to read it or a person buys a comic to invest in it, they're still buying the comic, which means the comic stores still stay in existence. The readers of the comics need us speculators, and us speculators need the readers. And guess what? The mom and pop stores that all went out of business in the 90s would wish they could have both go into their store and spend money. So when people bicker and argue and fight, that damages the future of what we love. And that's why we need to be careful about this. So on that note, I'm going to end this video. It's already an hour long. And Wobble says it best. We can all coexist. Both sides play a huge part. They absolutely do. But we need to stop the few elitist people that may be on the reader side and says, oh, I hate those investors. Or the people on the investor side and say, oh, I hate those readers. Instead of us going through all this hatred, why not let each one, we show the benefit of each one? Because there's benefits, there's pluses and minuses, there's positives and negatives to everything. But if we just cut the community in half, well, businesses will lose their ability to be able to produce, to make money, and to sell comics. And if less people get into it because they're tainted by a few bad apples, maybe they don't go to comic book movies anymore. Maybe all of a sudden the movie industry say, you know what, they're not worth making anymore. And then all the things we love disappear. Or don't become as iconic as they've been. And trust me, I grew up in the late 70s and 80s where there weren't many comic book movies. I mean, outside of Superman 1 and 2 and the first Batman in 1989, there were not many comic book movies like there are today. Take advantage of this. Don't take it for granted. Because like they say, you don't know what you got until it's gone. And at that point, it's too late and the damage will already be done. Don't let the 90s repeat again. We have the internet, something we didn't have in the 90s. We have people that are here from Australia, from different parts of the United States, from California to New York. We have people from Canada. I've had people view all over the world, talking about things that they love. You could be 30 years old, living in your mother's basement with no friends, no girlfriend, or no husband, no boyfriend, what have you, and you can actually get on the computer and actually talk to others who love what you love. How amazing is that? And here we see Uncanny Kawaka, New Zealand, Wobbles from Canada. This is something we should take advantage of. So if there are bullies out there doing bullying tactics, we need to stand up and say no more. We need to get them to understand that they don't have to love everybody, but you also don't have to attack other people who may be different. And Splash Page says comic bubble will burst in 2020. Let's hope he's wrong. Oh yeah, Howard the Duck movie. I actually saw that in the movie theaters the day that came out. And the only excuse was I was dating a girl at the time that wanted to see it, so at least I have that. But yeah, that was a horror show of a movie. That made me lose a lot of respect for George Lucas, because he put a lot of money invested in that movie, and I would love to know where it went. It was definitely not in the special effects, because when his 1977 Star Wars, which I saw in the original in the movie theater, had better graphics and better special effects than a movie in the mid-'80s, you know there's something wrong. So yeah, Splash, there might be cheap books in 2020, but there's going to be a lot less of them, and there's going to be a lot less people to share your love. So there's always ups and downs, pros and cons to everything. And I always say, be careful what you wish for, you may get it. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this live chat. And the fact is, I averaged about 30 people watching, considering this is probably the third live show I've done, means a lot to me. So I want to say to all of you, thank you very much for being here. The people that came back after I shut down my original channel and came back, I thank you so much. This, to me, is a lot of fun. And this is how I want it to be. And if you guys want me to do live shows every now and then, if you think this is something that's beneficial to you guys, I will be more than happy to do it when I can. It won't be like it used to be, because until other people in this community decide it's time to let go of silliness, I won't go in that direction again. But this, communicating with the people that love comics, to me that's great, and that's what this should be all about. So if you want to thumb it up and show support, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It helps my channel grow. If you want to share it with other people and let them know this channel is out there, this channel will welcome you whether you read comics or invest in them, whether you love Marvel, DC, or nothing but independence, whether you sell books on a regular basis or take them to your grave, Mr. White Gloves. And who knows, maybe people will get their own names, because remember, Splash Page, I'm the one that gave you Mr. White Gloves. And there's a couple of people out there I actually gave their names to, but I don't get credit for anything, but that's all right. So please, even when I shut off this, you guys keep chatting, keep communicating, subscribe to everybody's channels. I would love it if you subscribe to mine if you haven't, and say it with me, because this is important. It's not you. It's not I. What is it? So let's see who's the first person. They'll get a shout out. Who knows it? It's not you. It's not I. It's what? The questions will get harder. All right, they're not hearing it, so that's all right. It's We Love Comics. Up there we go. Alexa says we. We love comics. Thank you very much. Jess Waslowski said the same thing. I really appreciate it. Caden, thank you. Splash Page. See, this is what I'm talking about. Thank you very much, guys. I love you all. I hope this was a pleasurable experience. If you haven't heard it from the beginning, when it uploads and processes, it usually takes about a half hour to an hour. That's YouTube. Go and check out the whole video. Share it on your social networks if you think somebody will benefit. Be careful about the comics that you're purchasing. Don't be afraid to communicate. And by all means, learn what it is you're buying. more you know, the less chances you will suffer. So thank you very much. Have a great night. And don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered. That's one I haven't said in a long time. Peace out, everybody. Thank you again.